It started as a quiet weekend. I had taken time off from work and planned to spend 3 peaceful days on my boat, moored just off the coast near a quiet cove I found through Pinterest. It wasn't fancy, just a modest sailboat I'd bought. Secondhand, but it was mine. After months of working double shifts and dealing with endless drama from my ex, I just needed silence. No phones, no Facebook, no unexpected visitors, just the ocean, the breeze, and maybe a glass of wine while scrolling through IG. But the calm didn't last. I got a text from my neighbor back at the marina while I was running a quick errand in town. "Hey, are you throwing a party out on your boat today?" My heart dropped. I hadn't invited anyone. My boat was locked up, and only 2 other people had the spare key: my coworker Jill, and my so-called friends, the Karen sisters, Emma and Claire Karen. And believe me, they lived up to the name. Entitled, loud, and always acting like the world owed them something. I had trusted them once, given them access in case of emergencies. Big mistake. When I raced back toward the dock, I could hear the music thumping across the water, people laughing, beer bottles clinking. My boat, my peaceful getaway, had been turned into a full-blown, low-sponsored backyard bash, only it was floating in the middle of the bay. They had even posted a live story on IG, tagging the location like it was some kind of influencer yacht party. I flagged down a local fishing boat and asked for a lift. The closer we got, the more furious I became. My personal space had been invaded. My belongings were being tossed around like cheap party props. And those 2 sisters? They didn't even flinch when they saw me approach. Claire waved like I was just another guest arriving late. Emma shouted something about "lighten up. It's just fun." They had no idea what was coming next. Because when someone crosses the line on my turf, especially in open sea, there's only so much I'll tolerate before I draw that line and cut it loose. I climbed onto the deck, heart-pounding eyes scanning the chaos. Red plastic cups were rolling around near the steering controls, my neatly coiled ropes were tangled, and someone had spilled barbecue sauce on one of the seats I had just cleaned last week. I didn't even recognize half the people there, strangers with sunglasses and beer cans, dancing to loud music blasting from a Bluetooth speaker someone had dragged aboard. My boat didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt like some strangers. Pinterest party board come to life. Emma and Claire were front and center, lounging like they owned the place. Claire had one of my beach towels wrapped around her shoulders and was drinking straight from a bottle of wine I'd been saving for a quiet evening. Emma had taken it a step further, wearing my hoodie and acting like it was some kind of fashion statement. They didn't apologize. Didn't even ask how I found out. Just laughed and said you weren't using it, so we figured why not? Why not? Because it wasn't theirs. Because this wasn't some public pool party. It was my space, my safe zone, something I'd worked hard for, bought with my own money after years of saving, while others were out spending on Lowe's furniture and Facebook Marketplace junk. This boat wasn't just a weekend toy. It was my escape from everything. From the noise, the stress, the endless calls from work, the drama of dating, and even those late-night spirals reading IATA threads on Reddit, wondering if I was always the problem, and now here it was trashed, disrespected, floating in open sea with people I didn't know, and 2 sisters who clearly had no idea how far they'd pushed me. I wanted to scream, but instead I said nothing. Just started picking up a few things, moving slowly around the deck like I was trying to stay calm. But inside I was already planning my next move. One of the guests, a guy with messy hair and a Bluetooth speaker slung over his shoulder, asked me if I had more ice. I didn't answer. I walked past him, down into the cabin where my emergency controls were. The girls had no idea this boat had a separate anchoring system and a backup engine, or that I could override everything from below deck. Let them party. Let them think they're still in control. They wouldn't be laughing much longer. The cabin felt like a different world, quiet, dim, and untouched by the madness happening above. I locked the door behind me, something I'd never done before. There was a small monitor near the helm showing the boat's current GPS location, and I noticed we'd drifted farther than I expected. The cove was nowhere in sight. We were heading deeper into open sea, pushed slowly by the current and the guests who'd untied the boat without thinking. Another red flag. This wasn't just a party anymore. It was reckless. I opened the hidden panel beneath the bench seat and flipped the switch to the auxiliary controls. It gave me complete control of the engines, the anchor, and most importantly, the navigation. No one up top would notice unless they actually knew how to sail, which, judging by the way they were still doing TikTok dances and tagging random accounts on IG, they didn't. Not a clue. I sat in silence for a moment, heart still racing. Memories came flooding back of the time I'd first bought this boat, struggling to figure out what went where, watching endless videos on YouTube, browsing Lowe's near me for cheap gear and fittings. Every scratch, every dent, I'd repaired with my own hands. It had taken me months. And now it felt like it could all come undone in one stupid afternoon. Suddenly there was a banging on the door. "Hey, you okay down there?" It was Claire. Someone said you looked mad. We were just having a bit of fun. I didn't answer. I couldn't trust my voice not to crack. They never saw it as mine. To them it was just another backdrop for attention. Claire was obsessed with her Pinterest boards, always looking for aesthetics to match. Emma had this habit of chasing clout posting on Reddit and Facebook groups about her crazy adventures, even when none of it was real. Once, she borrowed my cat just to fake a lost pet story for engagement. Who does that? This wasn't just about the boat. It was about control, about boundaries they thought they could cross, because I never pushed back hard enough. Until now, the boat rocked slightly, a breeze picking up. I watched the radar as we drifted farther out. They thought they were at the center of the party. They hadn't noticed yet. They were no longer anywhere near land. The sun had started to dip lower, casting a golden haze over the water. Up on deck, the music still blared, though a few of the guests were beginning to notice something was off. One guy was staring out at the horizon, squinting. "Hey, anyone know where we are?" he asked, holding his phone up. No signal. I watched it all unfold through the cabin window, my heart pounding in sync with the thrum of the engine below. I hadn't turned it on yet, but I could. The backup motor was fully operational and nearly silent. The anchor was already raised. All I had to do was push us farther out, into waters where the coastline faded and GPS signals struggled. I didn't need to go far, just far enough for reality to finally hit. Claire banged on the cabin door again, louder this time. "We're not close to the dock anymore. Did you move us?" Her voice wasn't playful now. It had an urgency. "Creeping in good?" "Let it." The guy with the Bluetooth speaker, he looked like he was trying to call someone. He's probably searching Lowe's near me or Googling how to navigate without a compass. Oh, look. Out here it was just sea and sky. And me, the only one who knew exactly how to get back. Emma stormed down next. "Open the door, seriously? This isn't funny?" She jiggled the handle. "Are you messing with us?" I didn't respond. Instead, I turned off the interior lights and let the room go dark. Back on deck, voices were rising. Few people were arguing now. Someone dropped a drink. I heard the glass shatter. The wind picked up slightly, sending a chill through the air. I could almost feel their mood shifting from carefree fun to unease. I'd given them everything: access, trust, patience. And all they gave me was disrespect. My own boat turned into a circus act. They had laughed in my face, mocked my reaction, acted like I was overreacting. Like I was just another angry face on some Reddit IETA thread being voted down because I finally stood up for myself. But they were starting to realize now. The music was off, conversations were hushed, and the sky was getting darker. They had no idea how far they'd gone, not just from land, from the last sliver of safety they thought they had. And I wasn't done yet. A sudden thud shook the boat. Not from the water, but from above. I froze, instinctively looking up at the ceiling of the cabin. It sounded like someone had slipped, maybe one of the guests losing balance as the swell picked up. I waited, expecting laughter, maybe a sarcastic comment from Emma, but instead, I heard something else. Panic Claire's voice rang out, sharper than before. "Guys, something's wrong with Mia." Girl I hadn't even noticed earlier. Probably one of Emma's Instagram tagalongs. Her voice cracked. "She's not waking up." My heart skipped. I hadn't expected this. I'd only wanted to scare them, make them think twice about walking all over someone. But now someone was hurt. I rushed up the stairs and stepped onto the deck. The party was officially over. Empty cups littered the floor. The Bluetooth speaker was finally silent. And everyone stood in a frozen huddle near the front of the boat. At the center of it, Mia lay slumped against the bench, her skin pale. Someone was shaking her gently, but she wasn't responding. "What happened?" I asked, forcing calm into my voice. "I don't know," said the guy who'd been dancing earlier. "She said she felt dizzy and sat down. Then she just collapsed." I checked her pulse. It was there, but faint. Breathing, my stomach twisted. Maybe heat stroke, dehydration. She'd been drinking like the rest of them. But now, we were in open water, with no cell signal, no medical kit big enough to handle this. Emma turned to me, her voice desperate. "Can you take us back?" "Right now, please." I looked at her. For the first time, she wasn't smug. She wasn't filming. She looked scared. For a second, I felt it too. But I also saw the bigger problem. While they had been partying and pretending they were influencers, the weather was turning. Clouds were building fast on the horizon, dark and heavy. The radar showed a pressure drop. A squall was forming. I knew enough to read it, and we didn't have long. A girl unconscious, storm rolling in, and a boat full of people who couldn't navigate a floating cooler, let alone the sea. They'd turned my safe space into a reckless mess. Now they were trapped in it with me. I didn't hesitate. I dropped down to the cabin, switched the engine to full manual, and set course back toward the marina. The sea was already starting to churn, small waves slapping against the sides of the boat as the sky darkened. I turned on the radio, hoping to catch a nearby frequency. After a few static bursts, I reached the local Coast Guard station. I gave them our rough coordinates and explained the situation. One passenger unconscious, weather turning fast. Back on deck, I handed out bottles of water, told everyone to stay low and hold on to something. I even gave Emma and Claire clear instructions, no eye-rolling, no backtalk. To their credit, they followed every word. The storm made sure of that. What started as a breeze was now steady wind, howling across the deck. The waves tossed the boat harder. I gripped the wheel with both hands, eyes locked on the barely visible coastline. Mia was stable, but still unconscious. I kept checking her pulse, counting seconds between breaths. Claire held her hand tightly, whispering that help was coming. The same Claire who just hours ago laughed at my boundaries now sat pale and silent, her phone forgotten at her feet. Then, just as the coast came into view, something flashed on the radar, small, moving toward us from the east. At first, I thought it was the rescue boat, but as it got closer, I realized it was my backup dinghy, the one kept tied behind the boat. Gone, missing. Someone had taken it while I'd been navigating. Someone had tried to escape. I scanned the guests. One face was missing. The guy with the Bluetooth speaker. Emma cursed under her breath. That jerk. He was freaking out earlier, mumbling about getting back to shore. He had quietly untied the dinghy and vanished into open sea, thinking he'd beat the storm alone. I radioed the Coast Guard again, this time reporting the missing passenger. They confirmed they'd picked up a weak emergency signal a few miles off course. Someone had triggered a flare. They were sending 2 boats now, one for us, one for him. The rest of us made it back, soaked, shaken, but alive. And the Karen sisters? They'd never asked to borrow anything from me again, but that guy, they never found him. In the days that followed, everything sank in. The Coast Guard launched a search for the guy who'd taken my dinghy. But all they found was the small boat empty. Floating miles from where we last saw him, no sign of him anywhere. His phone was waterlogged, no calls made, just a half-written IG caption still open in the app. Out here on the sea, escaping drama, that was it. The rest had been erased by salt water and panic. Back at the marina, my boat was towed in safely. The mess was still there, empty cans, sun-dried spills, and tangled ropes, but it was quiet now. No music, no shouting, no fake smiles for Facebook photos. Just the creaking of the dock and the low call of gulls, circling above Dot. Emma and Claire tried to make amends in their own way. Claire dropped off a bucket of cleaning supplies from Lowe's, along with a handwritten note. Sorry, we crossed a line. Emma left a gift card and a bag of snacks with a Pinterest tag still on it. They didn't say much else, but they didn't have to. The silence said enough. Mia recovered fully, thankfully. It was a mix of heat exhaustion and too much alcohol. I heard later that she unfollowed both sisters on IG and blocked half the people who were on that boat. Maybe that experience shook her awake too. As for me, I changed the locks, took back the spare keys, and I added a second tracker to my dinghy, just in case someone ever got another bright idea. But more than that, I learned something important out there in the open sea. Boundaries matter. Trust isn't something you hand out like a party invite. And sometimes, the quietest people, the ones just trying to keep the peace, are the ones who end up being pushed too far that day. I realized my boat wasn't just a getaway. It was a reflection of everything I'd built by myself, the peace I'd earned. And the moment I finally stood up for it, that's when I found a different kind of strength. Now, when I take the boat out, I don't tell anyone. I sail alone, my phone off, the wind in my face, and not a Karen in sight.